Before Marvel's superheroes or Star Wars Galaxies, Universal created Hollywood's first major crossover franchise, where Dracula...
I mistrust my own judgment. Look.
Frankenstein and the Wolfman shared a shadowy, world-revolutionizing form of storytelling, which would establish the template for Marvel blockbuster filmmaking. Let's explore how these iconic monsters transformed from Gothic literature to screen legends, examining how they reflected America's evolving anxieties across decades, and investigating why these black and white creatures continue to haunt our dreams despite today's CGI spectacles. What made these monsters so enduring that they still shape our nightmares nearly a century later? Their artistic and cultural legacy holds surprising answers. What if I told you that terrifying monsters saved one of Hollywood's major studios from financial ruin? When the stock market crashed in 1929, the entertainment industry felt the economic shockwaves of the time just like everyone else. Theater attendance and weekly admissions in America nosedived from 90 million to 60 million. Universal Pictures was struggling during this tough time. Many Americans didn't have the extra money, and going to the movies was like a luxury for them. Then came Carl Laemmle Jr. At just 21 years old, he made a bold choice that changed Universal and film history. While other studios stuck to safe, familiar stories, he took a chance on a genre most avoided: horror. People were looking for dark, thrilling stories to escape their tough lives, and Carl Laemmle Jr. understood that. He made a bold move by spending $40,000 to get the rights to Bram Stoker's Dracula, a huge risk during the Great Depression because money was tight. Universal had to cut back their big plans for the film. Even with the smaller budget, Dracula was still a big risk. When Dracula came out in 1931, it was something new for Hollywood. Movies had shown creepy stuff before, but never a full story about a real vampire. People were both scared and amazed by Bela Lugosi's powerful performance as Dracula, and most importantly, they bought tickets. The movie made about $700,000, giving Universal the money they badly needed. This unexpected success led Universal to quickly capitalize on the public's appetite for monsters. Frankenstein arose later that same year. The Mummy shambled into theaters in 1932. The Invisible Man rematerialized in 1933, earning recognition as one of New York Times' 10 best films of that year. As the Great Depression dragged on, Universal's dependence on these monstrous creations grew. What began as a risky experiment evolved into the studio's primary source of revenue and identity. These films established Universal as the undisputed leader in horror filmmaking, creating a brand identity that would live beyond the economic crisis. Universal's horror films succeeded because they tapped into something far more profound than mere escapism. These monsters weren't simply designed to frighten. They were carefully crafted reflections of Depression-era Americans' deepest social and economic fears. The aristocratic vampire, the displaced creature, the invisible force of chaos. Each monster embodied anxieties all too real for the audience members living through America's greatest financial catastrophe. Monster movies during this time showed what people were feeling. While viewers came to be entertained, they also connected with the monsters in deeper ways. The creatures in Universal's movies stood for the real fears and problems Americans were dealing with every day. Just like the Great Depression took away people's money and hope, Dracula took the blood from his victims. With his fancy clothes, polite manners, and European accent, he reminded people of the rich and powerful, those many blamed for the economic crash. When audiences saw Bela Lugosi as Dracula, They saw a symbol of the greedy forces that had hurt their lives. Frankenstein's monster spoke to different anxieties. His big boots and poor clothing reminded people of workers who had just lost their jobs. Like many struggling Americans, he was just looking for a place to belong. Even though he had feelings and wanted to be accepted, he was pushed away, just like the people who felt left out by a system that had once promised them a better life. The Invisible Man captured rage, born from powerlessness against unseen forces. His descent into madness paralleled the frustration many Americans felt as traditional paths to security disappeared before their very eyes. The Mummy showed how people felt about things such as immigration. Imhotep was stuck between ancient Egypt and modern America, just like many immigrants who felt caught between two cultures and were treated badly in their new home. By turning big, hard-to-explain fears into scary monsters, these movies helped people during the Depression deal with what they were feeling. This also created a style of horror that still shapes scary movies today. While individual monsters allowed audiences to confront specific fears, Universal execs were quietly plotting something revolutionary in cinema history. 1943's Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman forever changed how stories would be told on screen, introducing a concept so ahead of its time that it would take Hollywood 7 decades to fully capitalize on its potential. Originally, Universal's monsters inhabited separate narrative worlds: the Wolfman with his curse, the Frankenstein's monster with his scientific origins, and Dracula with his bloodthirst. As standalone films lost their novelty and box office appeal, Universal executed a bold cinematic pivot, combining these iconic creatures into a shared fictional universe. Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman presented some storytelling challenges. Screenwriters worked hard to bring together different monster stories. The film succeeded by establishing coherent rules for how these creatures would meaningfully interact despite their different origins. This innovative approach evolved with House of Frankenstein, 1944, where Boris Karloff played a mad scientist who revived Dracula and retrieved both Frankenstein's monster and the Wolfman. House of Dracula, 1945, further developed his multi-monster framework. These movies mixed different monster stories while giving fans what they wanted from each character. Universal came up with a new way to make movies. They showed that linking stories together could make stories bigger, keep fans interested, and help well-known characters stay popular. Ideas that big movie series still use today. Universal changed the movie business with its monster series, but the real power of their monsters came from something deeper. Makeup artist Jack Pierce. He is who designed the looks that are so powerful and unforgettable that they became the way we picture monsters in our minds. His work helped create the look of horror that still shows up in our dreams and scary movies today. The classic monster era ended in 1954 with Creature from the Black Lagoon, a movie that showed how good Universal had become at making scary sea creatures. But the monsters didn't disappear. Jack Pierce's amazing makeup turned actors into creatures that they were both scary and sad. For Frankenstein's monster, he used special prosthetics to change Boris Karloff's face while still showing his emotions. The flat head, neck bolts, and tired-looking eyes became the way everyone pictured the monster, more than how Mary Shelley originally described them in her book. For the Wolfman, Jack Pierce used hair and latex to turn Lon Chaney Jr. into a creature that was both scary and sad. Like old myths told in new ways, these monsters kept coming back in new forms. Universal had tried many times to bring them back for today's audiences, such as the 1999 version of The Mummy, which worked well by telling the story into a more action-adventure. However, the 2017 Mummy movie was pretty much, trash, showing just how hard it is to mix love for the old stories with what modern viewers expect. Even with the movies not always succeeding, the monsters became popular in other ways. The song Monster Mash turned into a Halloween favorite. and the Munsters made scary characters funny for a family TV show. These monsters could be scary or silly, showing just how flexible and lasting they are in our minds. And the monsters, well, they're still popular today because they show deep fears that technology can erase. Even with fancy CGI effects, people are still scared of things like death, change, and the unknown. Modern filmmakers respect what Universal started, knowing that the feelings and depth they gave their monsters set the standard for how scary characters are made, even in today's movies. What started as a risky move by a struggling movie studio has become a big part of modern entertainment. Universal's monsters are now everywhere, from old films to theme park rides. They're so powerful and timeless that filmmakers keep reimagining them for new audiences. Dracula and Frankenstein in particular have become the models for many new versions over the years. These monsters became more than just movie characters because they touched something deep inside us. Universal's horror films showed that people can face their fears by seeing them on screen. By turning invisible worries into visible monsters, these films didn't just help a movie studio, they became a lasting part of our culture, showing us how stories can help us deal with our darkest fears. And with that is every Universal Pictures monster explained in 10 minutes. But we'd like to hear what you think. Feel free to tell us your favorite Universal Pictures monster in the comments below. Till the next one. This is Golden Noir, signing off.